Heidi Love.
And I'm Joni Max.
And we are Soul Sisters Recovery Talk. Hey, sister, soul sister, fill the empty hole, sisters.
Well, this is going to be an interesting talk today. I'm so fortunate to be here with Heidi Love, and we are going to be interviewing her today on common relationship patterns. Heidi is a renowned speaker and an educator on love and intimacy and relationship addiction. I happen to know that because I have been a patient of hers and used her for some unbelievable, incredible therapy. And we are going to be exploring with Heidi today the common relationship patterns that we see in addicts. Hello, people like me, and the family members of addicts, which is really an important subject. And so I am going to start right now with the first question. Heidi, what are the most common relationship patterns that you see?
In addicted families. And
Yes.
we're talking mostly about addicted families. So the most common relationship patterns I see are codependency, which most of you have heard of that and are familiar with that. We are both codependents here. We know what we're talking about. By definition, by experience, and by recovery. So codependency is definitely one of them. Love addiction, love avoidance. We have to name things in order to tame them. I say name it to tame it. So
I like that. Name it to tame it. I've heard you say that before.
Yeah, some people get really offended by being labeled. And if you take it as, oh, this makes me bad, stupid, or wrong, then of course it doesn't feel good. But if you take it as like, wow, I'm an alcoholic and there's treatment for that. There's help for that. I'm a codependent and that's an awareness that can put me into positive action. So when I label things or diagnose things, it's to name it to tame it. So codependency, love avoidance, love addiction, those are the three top major patterns that I see, and there's a lot within that we can go a little bit more into detail about further on in the interview, I guess.
All right.
If we need to.
Question number 2 that I have is, how do these patterns affect addiction and recovery?
Yeah, so I know for me that my codependency definitely came first. I mean, I was a codependent at a very young age. That's where codependency develops. Codependency is a survival skill we learn in our family of origin. It's a way to cope with what we grew up with. And many people think that codependency only happens from growing up in families that are having active addiction, but that's not true. I didn't have any active addiction in my home. Neither one of my parents drank or used or even smoked. I shouldn't say any active addiction. They had more process addictions. We can go around that, but there was no substance abuse. You know, there was codependency and probably more like sex and love addiction stuff going on. But as a child, I developed the codependency. So in getting sober, I think it's super important, and we'll talk about the timing too, but for me, I couldn't work on the codependency while I was in my addiction, because while we're in an active substance addiction, we're in denial, we're in avoidance, we're like, who cares, I'm chill, you know, we're riding the wave of the chill, of the buzz, of the, you know, denial, of the avoidance. So it's hard to be present in relationship and in intimacy. And so I would, you know, anytime's a great time to work on a substance abuse addiction or a process addiction. So there's no wrong time to work on it. However, I do find it easier if you treat the substance addiction first and then the relational addiction.
Well, that's very interesting that you say that, because that kind of was my third question that I had, is when is the time to work on the relationship issues? Do you deal with the substance first or the process? And you just said that you do deal with the substance addiction first.
Yeah, I would recommend dealing with the substance first and then going into it. Like, for instance, when I first let go of alcohol, Joni, I couldn't deal with my family of origin. I mean, today I can fast forward and be like, I'm in love with them. They're an amazing family. I have so much gratitude for the family I came from. But when I first got sober, I wasn't in that feeling. I was feeling isolated, left out, uninvited, in a very codependent relationship with my mom. And I couldn't handle any of the stress in my early sobriety. So for me, I had to treat the alcoholism, and I probably, looking back, had an active food addiction, sugar and compulsive overeating, even getting me through that first year. And also, I wasn't willing to work on my relational stuff that first year because my sobriety was too fragile. So everybody's different. I mean, maybe you have rock hard sobriety right away. It took me a long time to get some time. You know, I'd get 3 months, 6 months, whatever. So I recommend that you're solid in your sobriety, and then you dive into the relational stuff. When we uncover our relational patterns, it's painful, and we have to learn not to abandon ourselves. And we abandon ourselves every time we go into a substance addiction. That's truly abandoning ourselves. So when we're solid and ready to really be with ourselves through the grief, through the pain, through the truth, and we're in a capable place of having support, where we're not abandoned and where we're not abandoning ourselves, that's the time to work on relational addiction or processes.
Wow, a lot of information, huh? I love it. This chick knows a lot of stuff, let me tell you. Okay, so my next question is, you have a term called sober relationship behaviors. I love that. And I've heard you talk about it before because I've taken your class, which, you know, I will mention later on. What does this mean?
So I like to use the term sober relationship behaviors because, unlike a substance addiction, it's not black and white. When you put down cigarettes, you know, I don't go buy cigarettes. I don't smoke cigarettes. It's very simple. Not simple to give up the addiction, but the you know what not to pick up. So in relationship, each person is different. And Joni and I were talking about this before the video, that, you know, one person's codependent behaviors are very different from another person's.
Yeah, they're so
codependent.
varied.
Yeah. So we really have to dive in when we're doing this relational work and discover, what are my behaviors that are not sober in relationship? Like some of the behaviors that kind of across the board in love addiction would be, many love addicts get triggered into insecurity, and then they have an investigator that comes out, and we start drilling the person we're in relationship with because we're investigating, because we know something's off, and we get all nervous. And
That's happened to me
What's
before.
wrong with you? No, I know something's wrong with you. No, where were you tonight? And then we want to dig through their phone, or we want to dig through the trash, or whatever it is.
Not my kind of guy, okay?
So we can get pretty, you know, crazy in that piece.
As they say in the Bronx, take a walk.
Take a walk.
Take a
Take
walk.
a pause.
Okay.
Take a hike. Don't let the door hit you.
Right.
So yeah, probably if you're in that kind of relationship, that's the end-all be-all solution. But you know, not fun to go there, is it, Joni? We've both given up those kind of relationships.
No can do.
So back to the behaviors. So we really look at our own individual behaviors. Like in codependency, there may be someone that really goes into obsession. We might be peacekeepers. We might be passive aggressive. We might have very low self-esteem and be described as a doormat. So we can really get clear once we start doing this work on our own individual behaviors. And I know for me, in relationship, if I do these things, I'm not sober in relationship. I'm not in my sober behaviors. So we get to look at, I love to use this analogy, and I use it in my class because we have so much shame, like, oh, I'm codependent, oh, I'm a love avoidant, I'm a love addict. No, no shame, no shame. We have a toolbox. These are survival skills we learned as a child. And we put these tools in our toolbox because they were the ones that worked. And now we're opening that toolbox and we're shining a flashlight in there. And we're like, hey, does this peacekeeper work anymore? And not so much. I need to pull this tool of speaking up for myself and put it in the toolbox. So we're analyzing what tools work, what survival skills from childhood still work, what ones don't. We're chucking them out and we're putting them in, and we're reevaluating how we do relationship.
it really, there really are so many tools that you can use. I mean, because in my life, and I know other people that just feel helpless. It's like, how am I going to change this? I can't change this. Yeah, I've given up the addictions, the substances, but wow, there's all this behavior.
Yeah.
And Heidi's got a toolbox. So as I was saying before, I've had the opportunity to have been enrolled in your self-mastery course. And I got so much information. You've been hearing some of it already, and this is only the beginning. And she has everything on a website, and it's all written out. So you take the class, and then you get to, instead of just like going in ear, one in ear, and possibly out the other, and not remembering, you can always go back and refer to all the information on the website. That has really helped me a lot. So I wanted to mention to people that this is available for you folks by looking up HeidiLove.com. Can you talk about this a little bit?
Yeah, I can.
Okay.
Thanks for giving me a plug, Joni. Normally we don't do that on these videos, but it
Well,
is a really valid resource.
I just want to say one other thing. This for me, these things and codependency, and I've been listening to a codependency tape CD lately from Melody Beattie over and over again. Any addiction can be a life or death situation. And I am mentioning this now about Heidi because we're talking about life and death. There are some people that have serious relationship issues that
that can cause us to use. It can cause suicide. I mean, certainly my most painful times in life were tied to addictive relationships. So it can be super serious for people. So I appreciate the plug, and you can look it up. It's Self-Mastery in Relationship. It's on my website, HeidiLove.com. And it's a program that I put together because of my own frustration. I mean, I have the background of psychology. I've studied quantum physics. I've been a researcher of sex and love and relationship for 20 years.
studied me.
For 20 years. And I had my own pain of codependency, love addiction, love avoidance. I have diagnosed myself as a switch hitter, ambivalent love addict. It's like I'm a love addict, and then I go into my codependency, and then you avoid me, so I'm hurt, so I go into avoidance. Dun, dun, dun. So, and you guys, the more you learn about this, you'll know, and you'll find some humor in that. So I'm definitely a switch hitter. I have them all covered. So in saying that, I was immensely frustrated in the thousands of dollars I paid for support, tens of thousands of dollars in treatment, in therapists, in help, and not a lot of people know about codependency to a degree now, but the love addiction and love avoidance, I mean, you can forget it. And so part of why I developed this program is because come on, being an addict, you want a solution and you want it yesterday. So I developed a program.
Right now, honey.
Right now.
I want it now.
How do I change it now? So this program is really to be on the fast track of having super happy, healthy relationships and getting the skills you need, the awareness and reflection of yourself. What do I need to dump? And the skills of how do I want to connect? And my passion and love on the planet is connection and healthy relationships and really non-judgmental positive communication, because that is how we grow. I mean, we have enough shame in addiction and shame in what we've gone through in our lives.
I have so much.
Yeah, shame is horrible. So shame on shame.
Yeah,
Should have mastered
shame the way you mess around with your man. It's a shame the way you hurt me.
I love it. The acronym for shame is should have already mastered everything.
Oh, I love that. See, she's got all kinds of these.
I love one-liners. Great for our obsessive brains.
Yeah.
So in closing today, I really want to say that it's worth doing the work. You need a solid support system while you're doing it. You need probably Al-Anon, CODA. Any of the relational 12-step programs are amazing. So I recommend having that and a professional to work with, somebody like me that can do private work with you or group work like the self-mastery and relationship. So I think it takes, having a support group, learning about what it is you have, what it is you're using, what it is you want to move into, and then having skills to do the behavior different. And support is so important. So this is not only for addicts, this is for family of addicts.
That's right.
That need to work on the relational stuff. But if you are an addict, the support is even more important, because when you open this toolbox, when you open Pandora's box, you need some support not to abandon yourself and not to abandon the process. And you know how we abandon things, by using. So
Yeah.
I'd love you to sing again to close. I mean,
The
not
Soul
just our-
Sister song.
No, sing something else. I love her voice. It just makes me so happy.
Let me say that since we've been together, loving you forever. Last line is all I need.
Yeah.
All right, Soul Sister song. Let's
Wait,
go.
I want to say one thing. So, what she just sang, loving you.
Loving you.
This is the first relationship you want to cultivate in a really deep way. And it's so worth it to get to know yourself, fall in love with you, and make it a lifelong love story. So,
Hey, sister, soul sisters, fill the empty hole, sisters.
I just want to remind you, the best compliment is to share this with a friend. So post below, comment, tell us what you like, tell us what you want to hear, and please share this with all your friends. It's our hope that we can impact and help and educate, inspire, and transform your life by doing these. So blessings.